show. But
wow.
Joining us on the line now is our guest of the week, our first guest of 2011. Wow, I can't believe it's 2011 already. Guy who joined us for the first time back in 2005. On the line right now is Vance Archer, Lance Hoyt. Lance, how you doing today?
I'm good, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, man. It's great to have you on again.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I definitely appreciate it.
Well, I guess the first question we got to ask you is how you doing since departing from the WWE?
Man, I'm doing fine. I've been spending a lot of good time with my family and friends, getting back into the groove of things, being back home in Dallas. So everything's been good, man. Just moving forward, doing what I got to do to get things back on track and get myself back in the limelight.
Very cool, very cool. Now, the last time we talked to you was 2005. You were just starting to break out on your own. The fans were starting to chant Hoyt, Hoyt, Hoyt in the crowd, and it was just starting to catch on. And you know, you've gone through a few metamorphoses since then. You know, Lance Rock, and then you left TNA. I guess what I want to find out from you is, did you leave TNA on good terms?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I still have a lot of good friends in TNA. The people that are in charge, the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, you know, everything left on good terms. Business is business sometimes, you know, unfortunately, sometimes business is not handled the right way, but everything that I've dealt with so far in the business, regardless of whether I like the situation or not, was handled in a professional manner, and everything, and everybody left, you know, on good notes, on good terms.
So the door was left open for a possible return?
Who knows, man? You know, in this business, it never seems like any door is completely closed. And even when people say it's completely closed, there seems to be a crack in something somewhere, and somebody gets in. So, you know, you never know what's going to happen, where you're going to go, who you're going to end up with. And so, you know, there's even when bad things happen, the door's never completely closed. Who knows, man?
Very cool.
Well, if Sable and Bret Hart could wind up back in the WWE after everything that happened with them, I think it's safe to say anything can truly happen in this business.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what happens and where it's been, you know, somehow if you find your way back in, whatever crack in the hallway you can find, you can get there.
There you go. Now, I do want to ask you an interesting question, because Awesome Kong has just signed a WWE contract, and rumors are she might be going to FCW, and I guess the question I have for you is, you've been in wrestling for quite a few years now. I think 2001 you debuted, is that right?
For who?
Just in general.
In the business. Actually in 2000.
2000, okay.
Very far, yeah.
So by the time you got to FCW, you were not a veteran, but you've been in it for 8-9 years by that point. What exactly do they teach you in FCW? Do they teach you a WWE style, or what is it? Or is it them really reviewing your style, or what happens in FCW?
FCW really is a great place, depending on where you're at, what your level is, what really needs to be done. You know, the guys that are running it, Dr. Tom Pritchard, Norman Smiley, Steve Kern, all those guys, you know, if you're in the position I was in, it's really just a polishing system. It's just a buffering system. It's kind of, you know, WWE has a mentality, it has a style, it has a way they like their guys to work and to be presented, and that's what FCW can provide for the guys who have experience in the business. It's not necessarily learning how to wrestle or anything like that. It's just learning how to work for WWE. Because they definitely have their own unique style in comparison to really any other professional wrestling or sports entertainment in this business today. And if you're a guy that's never touched the ring, which they have a lot of those guys, you know, they'll sign guys who they think have potential to be in the business, who have never been wrestlers before, and start them from the ground up. And, you know, again, for those guys, FCW is an amazing place because you're working with guys who have high calibers of working abilities and skills and things like that. And then didn't mean to leave him out, but Dusty Rhodes, you know, he's right there with you, and he runs it and helps you learn how to present yourself and to talk and to do the things that are extremely necessary as far as WWE is concerned. So, you know, if you're just starting out in business, it's an amazing, amazing place for somebody to get their feet wet in this business. And if you were like somebody like me who's just trying to learn how to work for WWE, it's a great place to be polished off.
And was there a lot to learn? I mean, was there a lot to pick up on that like subtleties that us fans would never figure out?
I would imagine so, yeah, man. Like I said, it is definitely a different mentality. It's a different style. There's things that, you know, WWE wants to see within the realm of all their entertainment that is on television, whether it's, you know, promos, backstage, in-ring, your working style, the things that you do, how you present yourself. I mean, there's so many elements because WWE really has turned themselves into an entertainment company.
Right.
I think it's part of the reason they call themselves sports entertainment now. So they're looking at all aspects, whereas, I think on the independents, it's really more focused on the wrestling. And, TNA is a wrestling company. They have some amazingly talented wrestlers there. AJ Styles, Frankie Kazarian, guys like that who just, you put them in the ring, they're going to blow you out of the water each and every time they wrestle. Mm-hmm. So WWE just has that style. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a place and a time to learn how to be a WWE wrestler or sports entertainer.
Very cool. Now, I have to throw back a quote that you gave me on our last interview, and I was asking you if you ever had hopes of going to WWE, and you said that you weren't sure because you didn't have the Batista body that they seemed to like at the time. Did that come into play? Was there any kind of concern about that when you did finally sign the dotted line and go to the WWE?
No, because I think the business has changed a little bit as well. WWE's wellness policy is in full effect, whether people want to believe it or not. Dave, who is an extremely cool cat, and I said that at a time when I didn't know him. I know the person now, and I know how hard he works to look like he does, and the things that he's able to do in the gym just to get himself in that shape. And it never really was an issue because size-wise, height-wise, I was right there with all their top dogs on a physical level and a visual level. So that never even became a problem, I don't believe.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right, one thing I wanted to ask you about is that in both TNA and WWE, you seem to work a lot in tag teams and with various different partners. With all your experience in tag team wrestling, is it something that you enjoy doing, that you feel that you're very good at, and would you be open to continuing doing that if you go back to TNA or WWE?
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoyed working tag teams. I wish that there had been a little more focus, like when Kurt Hawkins and I were working together on the tag team division. But it is what it is, and you can only do what you can do and what you're allowed to do at different times. So I always enjoyed in the tag team division a lot, and I had a lot of fun and a lot of success while I was at TNA, Kid Cash, and even Jimmy Rave. And I think the Rock and Rave infection could have been a lot bigger and a lot stronger than it was. If given the right opportunity, which that's what this business is about. It's about opportunity. If you're given the right opportunity, I think you can flourish and succeed beyond all, expectations. But, I really enjoyed working in tag teams, and if, another opportunity to work in a good, strong tag team came about, I'd jump at it for sure.
What was more your motivation? Go ahead, Pat. You were about to ask the exact same thing I was. Go ahead.
What was the inspiration for the Rock and Rave infection? Because whenever I watched it, I always got kind of a Bill and Ted type of vibe from it, and I thought it was kind of funny.
I don't know if you guys have ever spoken to Jimmy, but we just had fun with it. That was the main thing. He and I actually were put together as a tag team before the whole real Rock and Rave infection came about. We had the name, we had the group. It was Jimmy, I, and Christy, and we were kind of our own elements, and then, we kind of got presented one day with the idea of the Guitar Hero situation. And, at first it was one of those things where you're told about situations, you're told about things, and you're like, oh, what's this going to do to my career and business? And you don't know. And then, we kind of said, hey, how much freedom do we have here? And they're like, do whatever you want, have fun with it. So we're like, all right. And I had the mentality of kind of having the Slash visual with the hat and the things like that.
Yeah.
They let us do the tattered jeans and Jimmy ultimately donned kind of the 80s rock with the crazy bright colored tights, and Christy Hemme just always was, super rock star chick, and like I said, myself with the Slash guitar crazy guy and whatnot. We had a lot of fun and a lot of freedom with it. And, I think that's what made us enjoy what we were getting to do when we were getting to do it. And I know when we first started doing that, we were used a lot, working with LAX and the machine guns and stuff like that. And we were having some really good matches and having some good shows. And, but the business is what it is, and they decided to go in different directions. And unfortunately, Jimmy and I and the Rock and Rave infection was not the main focus. You can't get mad at it. Like I said, it's just business, and that happens. You can only do what you can do with what you are given. So we had a lot of fun. We'd hoped it would have been bigger and better, and who knows?
Yeah. And no, we never did have Jimmy Rave on the show. I think I called him back in 2003 or something like that. He was just getting started, and I think I called him at his parents' house. So,
no. Well, he's a good guy. You guys should have him on sometime.
I hope to. I hope I can someday. Well, I guess we got to ask you a little bit about WWE, and when they brought you in to ECW, and you were getting a bit of a push, beating Tommy Dreamer and all that, and was there any promises made, or was it all just kind of a go week to week kind of thing?
No major promises made, man. Just premise for an opportunity, which really that opportunity came out of left field. I had no idea what was going on. I got a call saying that I needed to be at television that week. I showed up, and I really didn't understand what was happening until that day when I got there for television. And it's funny because even 5 minutes before the doors opened, I had a completely different image as to what was actually presented as Vance Archer on ECW. And it was just a chance. And the one thing, people, they knock ECW and they didn't like what it was and things like that. And but to me, and for guys like me, I mean, you got to look at like Jack Swagger, Sheamus, guys who kind of started doing the exact same thing I was doing when I debuted on ECW, and they were kind of doing the same things. And as they grew in character and time with the company, then that's when they branched on to the other programs and continued to flourish. I think, unfortunately for myself, ECW was cut short, but it was a great time. It was a great opportunity, and it was just that's exactly what it was. No major promises, but just an opportunity to be on television and start to build on something. I think if I'd have been given more time in that direction, a lot more would have come out of it. But unfortunately, ECW shut down, and then I was added to the SmackDown roster, and then things went where they went.
Yeah. Well, it's just such a huge roster, and I guess it's kind of a with a lot of the veterans that are there, it must be kind of a hard deck to break into.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. There's so many good talents within WWE, and when ECW could shut down, and now you take 20 extra guys, split them up between Raw and SmackDown, and you add 10 extra guys to an already very thick roster of SmackDown and Raw, it gets hard. Time is precious, and there's only so much that can be put out there. That's why I think even now you see a lot of the guys who are on Raw or SmackDown rosters that you don't see very often on those shows. You see a lot of them on Superstars.
Yeah.
Even though Superstars isn't what ECW was, it's kind of taken that on as the place for the younger talent, the guys who are coming up, the guys who are going to be those superstars, really, sharpening their teeth.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Guitar Hero a few minutes ago, and I do have to ask you about this, even though it might not be exactly the same thing, is you're in the new WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 video game, and I got to think that's kind of cool to be able to see yourself on the screen.
Super cool, man. It's kind of crazy, I had no idea that they were even doing the roster announcement when they did it, and then I started receiving tweets and things like that, and they're like, "Hey, congratulations!" And I was like, "What? I am? That's super cool." I had no idea, and it was really kind of cool. And I didn't even get to play the game until several months after, or not several months, but probably a good month and a half, 2 months after it come out before I actually even got to play the game.
And did they do you justice?
I think they did great. It's amazing the technology, as to where it is now, to where it was, and it's scary to think of where it's going to be, in the future as far as the visual effects. If you watch the game now in comparison to what it was, I think now, like, you start a match, and you're working a match for a long time, you're wrestling, you're fighting, you're doing your thing. As the match goes on, if you have a fight, the guy will start bleeding, he'll start sweating, he'll start looking different, just like he's had more worse for wear for working or wrestling a match for the whole time frame, which I think is crazy to think that that's all just in a video game.
Exactly, yeah. It's the realism has come a long way since the days of the Hulk Hogan one with WrestleMania, the arcade game, or whatever it was back in NES days.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I'll let you go in just a few minutes, but I do want to ask you a little bit about the change in look. We talked about, the Rock and Rave connection and the long hair and the